Hey everyone, this is Steve Gatlin from Steve Cooks Stuff, and welcome to the Signature Dish. Today we're going to be making an Arroz con Pollo a la Cuban style, fried plantains, and a Piña Colada Cobbler. I'll be sharing all the recipes with you, showing you my techniques, my take on some of these very classic dishes. I myself was born and raised in Miami, Florida, joined the Marine Corps, spent many years traveling around the Marine Corps, and now I live out in California where I get to try many different kinds of food. And I like taking my roots in South Florida and the South, blending them with the California style, and then a little bit of Midwest in between. So really excited to be here. Hope you enjoy what you see, and let's get cooking. So today what I want to make for you is a Cuban style Arroz con Pollo. What I'm going to start with is I've got 5 bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. I've got my pan has been heating up really nice for me here. And all I want to do is just put a little bit of salt and pepper on top of the skin, like that. And just a splash of olive oil. Just a little bit in there on the bottom. I'm going to let that get going for just a little bit. Make sure it's there. And then I'm just going to take my chicken thighs and I'm going to lay them in. You always want to drop them in and kind of push them away from you. That way the oil wouldn't splash up. Just going to kind of lay them in there. You can hear them already starting to sizzle. Okay. So anytime you handle fresh poultry or any type of meat, you always want to wash your hands right after, so you're not getting into cross-contamination. You can see these are really starting to go here. And what we're doing is we're just browning the tops of them. We're starting to render that fat off of the skin so that we'll be cooking the rest of our vegetables here in a moment once these start to get browned a little bit. So I've already gone and I've chopped up my 1 whole white onion here. I'm also going to add some red bell pepper and some green bell pepper. So while these are going, I'll just kind of start chopping. I like to do a mix of red and green bell peppers when I'm making this dish. I like to do a mix of red and green bell peppers when I'm making this dish. The red ones are a little bit sweeter in taste, and the green ones, they're just not quite as ripe, so you get a little bit more of that bitter and sharper flavor of a bell pepper. You just want to make little slices, about the same size as the onion there. Get them chopped up like that. Get them ready to go in the pot here in a minute. I'm going to check on my chicken. You want to just, make sure it's not starting to brown yet. Move around, make sure that there's contact across the entire bottom of the pan. And so in the Cuban style of Arroz con Pollo, as I mentioned, there's not heat. And these peppers here are not going to bring any heat as well. But when I get into getting these going, I'm going to explain to you in a minute here the types of spices that I'm using that are going to bring in some more heat for you. So there's my red one. I'm just going to use about half of this green one because I do have some green chilies that I'm going to add in there as well. Just kind of pull that back, come across, and just do kind of a rough chop here, making your pieces about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I like to make mine look kind of rustic. And growing up as a child and then moving on, into my adult life, I've always been into cooking for the masses. And so family style. A lot of times we'd have a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening dinner, and you could have anywhere from, 10 to 20 people stop by. Sometimes a potluck style, or sometimes you could just make a big pot like this and feed a whole bunch of people. So I'm going to start to turn these over for just a minute. You can see they're just starting to brown. And what we're doing is we're kind of par cooking them. So I'm going to pull them out of here in just about another 30 seconds or so and continue on with this process. But what we're doing, as I mentioned, is getting the fat is mixing with the olive oil, We're starting to get a little bit of color on the skin here, and we're already just about ready. This pot's working well for me today. So what I'm gonna do is pull out my chicken thighs and just let them rest in this bowl. They're far from cooked. As you can see, they've only been in there for about 2 minutes. But we got a little bit of color. We got some nice fat rendered in the bottom of the pan, the pot here, and we're just gonna put these to the side. So now what we're gonna make is sofrito. Sofrito is basically a mix of vegetables and liquid to make a broth or a stock that you're gonna cook your dish with. So I'm gonna start with the white onion that I had already chopped. I don't need to add anything else to it. It's already got the olive oil and the rendered chicken skin going in there. So you can hear those are already starting to sizzle. Now at this point I want to start increasing the heat on my pot, because eventually I'm going to get this all the way up to a boil with liquid. So I start now by bringing up the heat, and I like to add the white onions first. They tend to take a little bit longer than the peppers to render and to start to turn translucent. So I like to give those about 30 seconds to a minute longer than the bell peppers. So we've gotten there. So now I'm just going to start adding in my bell peppers. Okay, so we got those going. Stir those around. Get them all married up there with those onions and starting to cook together here. Now while these are going, I've gone ahead and before we started, I peeled about 4 cloves of fresh garlic. Now what I want to do is just, again, this is kind of a rustic cut. I personally like, leaving the pieces of garlic a little bit bigger, so that when you're eating the dish at the end, sometimes you get that special little bite. And if you're a garlic lover, garlic eater like I am, it can be a nice little bonus, from time to time as you're eating through your bowl of arroz con pollo. Just gonna kind of chop those up there, and of course we're gonna get the flavor going as well. Okay, so those are like there. I'm gonna check on our bell peppers and onions. They're starting to look really good. It's sounding really good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the garlic. Garlic really only takes about a minute is all you want to start to go into the simmer like that. So we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna start stirring that around, let the garlic continue to go. And then now we're gonna start adding our spices. I've got quite an array of spices going here. I'm gonna talk through a little bit about the blend and the amounts that we're using. What we're going to start with is a tablespoon of cumin and chili powder. So I'm going to put that in there. Tablespoon each of cumin and chili powder. We're going to add another tablespoon of dried oregano. I'm going to go ahead and give that a little stir. Start coating all those vegetables with the spices as I'm adding them. We're going to add a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And then 2 teaspoons of dried coriander. And dried coriander is basically the seed from the cilantro plant. There we go. And then this was the tablespoon of garlic. So we've got all of our spices in there. We're gonna stir it around. Now we've got our vegetables are starting to turn translucent. They're starting to get soft. We've got a good mix going here. It's starting to kind of caramelize on the bottom of the pan, so you want to kind of scrape it and keep it going from there. Now what we want to do is add a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. This is going to add flavor of the tomato, obviously, but it's also going to work as a thickening agent down the road. So we add those in there. We start to stir. Now just as the vegetables were already starting to kind of caramelize and stick to the bottom of the pot, it's really starting to happen now with the tomato paste. So you don't want to wait long before you reach over and you grab a half a cup of white wine. This is just a regular Sauvignon Blanc. You can use Sauvignon Blanc, you can use Chardonnay, any type of white wine. You put it in when it's hot right here. You can see it's already starting to steam. I can smell the wine, it smells delicious. And at the same time the alcohol is already starting to cook out. and I can use the liquid from the wine to loosen the bottom of the pan. So we're keeping everything stirred, everything going. I've got a really nice sofrito started here. Next up, a good old can of beer, 12 ounces of beer. And we're just gonna put the whole thing right in there. Now I took this beer out of the fridge several hours ago so that it could get room temperature, because I don't wanna take the heat that I've built and put it in a cold beer and have it drop right down. So I like to take the beer, when I know I'm gonna make this dish, I take the beer out of the fridge in the morning, even if I know I'm going to use it for that night. That way you can see even after adding that full beer, it's still simmering, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to lose, you know, any of that great heat that I've got going. So now I've got the pot all the way up to high, because we want to get this really boiling here in a minute. The next thing that I'm going to add is 2 cups of chicken stock, not broth, chicken stock, bringing my total amount of liquid to 4 cups. So for this particular recipe, I want to have 4 cups of liquid, because later I'll be adding 2 cups of rice. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. By the time it cooks and everything, you'll see at the end, it's going to be a perfect arroz con pollo for you. So adding the stock, it kind of simmered down a tiny little bit there, but that's okay. I've got it on high, it's gonna come right back. Now's when I wanna take this chicken that I pulled out earlier, and I wanna just kind of slide them back in there, perfectly into the pot. Get this spoon out of here. I wanna add these back in, move them around a little bit, make sure that the liquid gets on top. You can see it just the tops of the chicken is sticking out now. And it's looking really good, and it's smelling delicious. I can smell beer, wine, tomato, and all those spices already getting going here. So I've got my 5 chicken thighs back in there. I'm gonna move them all around. Make sure that everything's submerged perfectly like it is. Now it's gonna take another couple of minutes to come to a boil, and then we'll be right back. All right, so now we've got a great boil going on our chicken in the pot here. Sofrito's going, everything's going. Right before we close this thing up to do its master cooking, we're gonna add the juice from 2 limes. And then I mentioned earlier, you know, the Cuban version of arroz con pollo versus the Mexican version, and all the different, everywhere in between has different stuff. I like to add some green chilies. These are like a medium green chili. This is right from the can. I like to add them in there right towards before the lid goes on. Like that. That's just 1 can, little 4-ounce can of some green chilies. Stir it around. We've got our boil going. What we want to do now is add the lid. We're going to reduce it down to a simmer. And this is going to go for 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is take a little break, reset for the next course, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Now I'm gonna get started on our dessert. We've already got our arroz con pollo on a slow simmer over here. We got everything reset for this tasty dessert I'm gonna show you how to make today. Super easy, comes together fast, and it's a real crowd pleaser, trust me. What it's called is a Piña Colada Cobbler. So kind of digging into my southern roots a little bit in the cobbler world, but going with the tropical pineapple, coconut, limey, kind of infused dessert to complement the arroz con pollo. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a stick of butter, because you gotta have butter in any good dessert, right? And what I have here is this pan is just on super low. And what I wanna do is just put the stick of butter in there while I'm getting the rest of the dish ready. And you'll see it'll just start to slowly melt along the way while we're getting ready with the rest of the dish. So I've also got this stock pot ready to go here. It's on a kind of a medium-low heat as well. And what I've got here is 4 cups of frozen pineapple. You can use fresh pineapple, you can use a mix. I go with the frozen. Today I'm going with the frozen, just because, you know, when it's frozen, it's harvested, it's cut, and it's pretty much flash frozen right on the spot. So for a dish like this that's gonna just bake for a long period of time and cook, I personally can't tell the difference between a fresh and a frozen on a dish like this. And for convenience, just showing you how to do it with the frozen one. So there's a lot of liquid in the bottom of this pan. We don't want to just dump it in there and get all the liquid in there. We just want to put in the pineapple with a slotted spoon, because the pineapple is going to release more liquid as it kind of starts to cook down as well. Just want to kind of do this. Get all of our little yummy pineapple bits going in there. All right. You can hear it's starting to kind of simmer a little bit. Our butter's looking good. It's already about halfway melted. It's going to be telling me pretty soon to get with it, pick up the pace. But we're doing just fine. Okay, our pineapple's in there. We got a simmer going. I'm going to turn it up a tiny little bit. And now in my bowl, I'm going to start making the batter. So the batter's super easy to make. We're going to start with 1 cup of AP flour, and I've already added in a teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of kosher salt. So we put that in our bowl. Then we want to add 1.5 cups of just regular white sugar. And then 1 cup of half and half. And so as we pour that in, we can kind of start to slowly mix it around. This is going to make our batter. It's going to mix together really quick, you'll see. So we just kind of set that down. Don't want to stir too fast. We don't want to splash it out all over the kitchen counter here. But if we just kind of move it around, you'll see it comes together really fast. And you don't want to over mix it. You don't want to put it into some stand mixer and have it going for minutes on end. It really just needs to be just mixed. So I'm just going to kind of do this a little bit. Once we get this mixed up a little bit, I'm going to grab my vanilla, and I'm just going to eyeball this, but I'm looking for about a teaspoon of vanilla. If you like your batter more vanilla-y, add more. But that's about a teaspoon, and that's going to be plenty. Okay, so we got our pineapple going. It's just on a nice slow simmer over here. Now what I'm going to do is I've got some unsweetened coconut, and I'm going to put about 2/3 of a cup of unsweetened coconut in there. I'm going to save some because in a minute I'm going to show you how we're going to make the topping for this dessert with the rest of the coconut that I've got there. So we're going to add that in, stir it around. I'm going to bring the heat up a little bit. I'm going to start to hear it simmer. Hey, look at our butter's almost done. Come back to this, continue to mix. Now what I've got here is about 4 ounces of white rum. Just Bacardi white rum, whatever. I use an airline bottle, you know they call them. You want to pour that in there. This is why you want to start bringing the heat up. Add that bottle in there because you want to start cooking that rum off. I can smell it. I'm already smelling. It smells like a piña colada. We got coconut, pineapple, and rum going right here in this pot. Bring the heat up. We're going to start to simmer, cook off that rum. Back to our batter. Stir that a little bit. I still see a few more pieces around the side, so I'm just going to keep working this until it goes. There's no major rush. I've got 3 things kind of happening here, all simultaneously. Timing-wise, it's all going to work out fine. All right, now I've got a good simmer going on the pineapple, which means the alcohol in the rum is starting to cook out and just leave us with the flavor. So now I want to come in and add a tablespoon of nutmeg. Sprinkle that in there. And then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Oh man, the smell that just hit me in the nose when that nutmeg hit that, the heat and all the flavor I got going, and the brown sugar. Oh, it smells delicious. So now you just want to stir it around. Make sure all the pineapple's coated with the nutmeg, the rum, the coconut, brown sugar. As I'm turning it, I can already start to see as I lift it, some of the pieces of pineapple that were on the bottom are starting to get caramelized a little bit. And that looks good. That's what we want. So that looking good there. Our batter's looking good here. I'm gonna let this go for about another 3 to 4 minutes, and then we'll be right back. All right, we're back. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes. Our pineapple is looking really good. It's smelling delicious. It's starting to kind of reduce a little bit. By now the rum is definitely cooked off. I've got my batter. It's completely mixed. Little to no little tiny lumps. If there's a couple little ones, it doesn't really matter, but it looks really good. I'm ready to go with it. I'm ready to build this thing and get it in the oven. So next step, we've got our stick of butter that's completely melted. It's not boiling, it's just kind of sitting there because I just had it on as low as it could go. So it's just looking perfect. What I'm going to do is move this aside. I'm going to go ahead and move my butter pan over here. And the key to this is you want to add your batter on top of the butter, but you don't want to just pour it in, because if you pour it, you know, the motion of it, the momentum of it could slide butter off to the side and have it kind of uneven. So what you want to do is just kind of take a ladle and just very carefully, you know, it's going to move, the butter's shifting, but it's just more kind of a slower process of adding your batter on top of your butter. And the butter's kind of rising up around some of the edges. The whole thing's just kind of looking like a buttery, delicious, floury, battery, soon to be pineapple-y, delicious dessert. So I've got all my batter in there. You can see there's kind of some butter coming through the sides. There's a lot of batter on top. What I want to do now is bring my pineapple mixture back over, and I'm going to do the same process. Same ladle. I'm just going to kind of give it a final stir. I don't want to dump it in there. I'm just going to start setting scoops of this pineapple goodness right on top of the batter and the butter till it kind of moves around to all the different sides. Now, when I started making these, I thought it seemed a little bit counterintuitive to put your batter underneath and put all this stuff on top. You know, it's a little different than, you know, say baking a pie that you put everything in the bottom and put your pastry on top. But believe me, you'll see when this is done, the batter's gonna rise up in between all the pineapple. It's gonna make a beautiful dish. I'm kind of leaving a lot of this liquid in the bottom. I feel like we've already gotten all the flavor that we need out of the rum, the brown sugar. You know, the pineapple has some caramelization on top of it. So I'm not worried about this liquid. Plus, right now it's just a lot of liquid in here already. So we're just gonna leave that. All of our ingredients did their job. And move that around a little bit. And so there you can see, it's just, you can see the butter, you can see the batter, and you can see the pineapple and coconut and everything that goes there. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna move the pan into the oven at 375 degrees for 45 minutes. Okay. All right. The cobbler is in the oven. Arroz con pollo is about ready to go. I'm going to reset for our next round of arroz con pollo, the next steps, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're 30 minutes into our arroz con pollo cook. We've got our Piña Colada Cobbler in the oven. Now it's time for the next step on the process of our main dish here. So this has been simmering nicely, nice and low and slow for the past 30 minutes. At this point, I like to turn heat all the way back up because we want to bring it up to a rolling boil in a second, and I'll show you why. So I've got the heat all the way back up. That's going to start to boil again. Now what I want to do is pull my perfectly cooked chicken thighs out at this point. They're done. We don't need them to cook any further. They're going to be perfect, moist, tender deliciousness at the end of this thing. So I'm going to pull, make sure I put 5 in, I get 5 out. It's also a good idea to kind of check and just make sure. Sometimes when you lift them, they could fall apart. You don't want a bone to drop back in or anything like that. So I'm getting them all out pretty clean. So these are going to sit over here to the side, and they're just going to start to kind of cool for a few minutes. Now I brought the heat back up because if you remember, I started with 4 cups of liquid between the beer, the wine, and the broth, and the stock. Between the beer, the wine, and the stock, I started with 4 cups. I lost a little bit through evaporation and cooking, but that's okay. So the next thing I want to do, and the reason it's okay is because I'm going to add a full jar of green olives with stuffed pimientos with the brine and everything. So any of the liquid I might have lost right now, even through this evaporation, it's being replaced with the olive brine and all of the olives. Just dump them all in there. There we go. No olive left behind. They're all in there, okay? And then I've got 2 cups of white rice. I've already gone through, and I'll just talk really quick about the rice. Some people prefer to rinse. Most people prefer to rinse, especially depending on the dish. What I've done is I've gone through and I've rinsed the rice so that the starch kind of rises in the water. It turns cloudy. You drain it off, you wash it again, drain it off until the water's, I'm not so stuck on my particular dish on it being perfectly clear, but you want to get rid of most of the cloudiness of the rice water. So it's been rinsed, it's sitting here waiting, 2 cups. We got a nice boil started here again on our Arroz con Pollo pot. I add in the rice. You can see it didn't even lose any of its boil. I just give it a quick stir. I can hear it simmering. Now we're just going to cover it right back up, and we'll see you again in another 25 minutes. Okay, all right, we're back, and while we were away, I went ahead and I took our 5 chicken thighs that we'd pulled out of the Arroz con Pollo earlier. They'd cooled a little bit, and I went ahead and shredded them. Took them off the bone, and they're just in kind of a variety of sizes. I mean, I like making it kind of rustic looking. When you see it later on the plate, you'll see what I mean. People can kind of reach in and dive in and have a bigger piece, smaller piece, whatever. So that's all off the bone. Our rice is now cooked. What I'm gonna do is just kind of take the lid off here. Looks great. The rice is actually a little bit on the surface there. And I'm just gonna add my chicken in, all of it. Scoop it right in there like that. Now the key here is to not stir it in, because you don't wanna create extra friction on the rice. It could start to get gummy, things like that. So I just put it on top, and then I just gently fold it. Bring the rice from the bottom, stir the chicken in. You can see right there. I mean, it's just lovely. I can pick up a spoonful right there, and I've got all the ingredients right there in one spoonful. So what I'm doing is just kind of gently folding it in. We're gonna stir it a little bit more when we go to plate. So just kind of get it all back in there. Put the lid on. It's on just warm right now, so we're not worried about that anymore. And I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into this really quick side dish that I wanted to make for you today, called fried plantains. So fried plantains are very common in Cuban cuisine, Mexican, all Latin American countries. They have different versions of it. You can get them when they're really green, and those are called tostones. They're usually like double fried or double baked, and they're more starchy. They use them as like a vehicle, almost like a potato chip. But to make sweet ones, you want to get the yellow ones. And all this black, markings on it, yellow, black markings, it's perfectly fine. This actually means it's the perfect time to use it. So there's a little trick to getting them peeled. You want to just cut off the top and bottom, and then just very carefully, so you don't cut yourself, just start at the top and just cut a tiny bit down the spine of it, all the way through. And then now, if you see, it'll just peel right away from the inner plantain. It's amazing. It just comes right off like that. Done. Throw that in the trash. And then what I like to do is just make them about, I don't know, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thick. The big thing is you want them to be continuity. You want the sizes to be the same so that they all kind of cook around the same amount of time. So I'd already done 3 before we came back. There's the last one ready to go there. I've got my pan. I've got my large cast iron pan here. It's got a nice little good amount of heat on it. These only take literally a couple minutes to cook. So you want to, not super high, but like a medium heat. But with a cast iron pan, once it gets hot, it retains that heat for a long time. So I like to bring the heat up and then take it back down. It's on a 5 right now. You want to just put a little bit of vegetable oil across the bottom so that it kind of just makes a thin layer across the bottom of the pan. Move it a tiny bit. A little tiny smoke on there, that's fine. And then sometimes I like to just very carefully, of course, take one and just kind of, oh, I can hear it simmer. I know it's good to go. I just drop it in. And then I can just start putting them in one at a time. You don't have to do all of these at once. You can do them in a couple batches. I'm going to put probably half of them in right now and just kind of get them going so that I can show you, 1, how quickly it cooks, and 2, you also don't want to crowd the pan. You want to be able to maneuver these things in a minute here. So we're going to put them down, and we're going to let them just kind of go for, I don't know, a minute or so, minute or 2. We got a nice little bubble going there, and pretty soon I'm going to show you how to flip them and take care of getting the other side so that they're ready to go. In the meantime, I've went ahead and I've gotten a lime cut up and a little bit of flaky sea salt. I'm going to add this at the end. You'll see it's a nice little trick. Because these are going to be coming back out, I'm going to go ahead and put these back on my cutting board. and get ready for this first batch to come out. So I can already start to see, just by looking at it, around the bottom edge, it's starting to get that little bubble. So you can just take a fork if you want. The first ones I put in were right about here. Just give them a little slide so they don't stick. You can see they're already kind of just moving around. That's a good thing. Once you pop them up like that, they won't stick again. They'll just be ready to go. So we're kind of loosening them all up, getting them going. And then now, once we've got them all loosened, you can go back to the first ones and kind of take a little peek. Oh, it's not quite ready yet. So another minute or so. I'm going to let these go. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to put the second batch in, and then we'll come back when we're bringing them all out so we can show you exactly what we're working with. All right, we're back. I've got my second batch of fried plantains about ready to come out. First batch is out. I put some sea salt, a little squeeze of lime on there. I've got them resting on the paper towels just so some of the oil can start to kind of drip off. What I'm gonna do now is add a second paper towel on top and then just start pulling them out. And what you're looking for is this kind of, you know, toasted, slightly burned, caramelized side on both sides. It's gonna be really sweet when it comes out. So don't think of it as burned. It's more just a nice little char on it that makes it just kind of melt in your mouth, really. They're like little plantain pillows, if you will. So I'm gonna pull these out, get them on the paper towel. They're looking good, they're smelling good. Can't wait to try them. Can't wait for you to try them. Hopefully you're watching this and you're thinking, I gotta go to the store and buy some of this stuff to make. I'm gonna get this off the burner real quick. And real quick, while they're still hot, I want to just I like using flaky sea salt. It just gives a little crunch when you bite into them. So I just sprinkle some flaky sea salt on top while they're hot. There's still a little bit of oil on there so it sticks a little bit. Just a little bit like that. And then I just got a lime handy. I like giving it a little bit of a little limey citrus kick. Not a lot of people do this. If you look up different recipes, some people do, some don't. Again, these are mine that I'm sharing. So there it is. Those are ready to go. What I'm gonna do is get all this ready to go. We're gonna plate up some food and show you everything that we made today. All right, we're back, ready to plate and have a meal, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you my preferred way to plate it up. Again, this is meant as like a family style meal. So what I like to do is serve it right out of the pot. It's been cooking in the pot. The whole thing happened right here in this Lodge cast iron pot. So I'm gonna remove that. You can see now all the liquid is pretty much reduced down. There's very little in there. You've got flaky rice. I can see the olives, the chicken, the peppers, everything is just right there waiting for me. So I'm gonna come in, just give it a light turn just to pull some of that chicken from the bottom that's been sitting on closer to the heat to the top. But really every spoonful at this point is gonna be pretty much identical. So I'm just gonna dive in here, take a nice spoonful out, put it right there in the middle of my plate. I mean, you can already see it. You've got color, you've got the red peppers, the green, you got pieces of chicken sticking out. Look at that, it's right there. So, it's a pretty hefty serving, to be honest with you. This is a pretty filling dish, so this pot right here will probably serve 8 to 10 people easily. So I'm gonna stop right there with that one. Some people just go right in and eat it as is. It's kind of a, you know, different strokes for different folks kind of a thing. What I like to do is take a little sour cream and I squeeze a lime in there, you know, probably about a half a cup of sour cream, 1 lime, and then just whip it so that it's not like a clumpy sour cream, it's more like a crema, you know, it kind of runs a little bit, and it has a little limey kick to it. I like slicing up a little avocado if it's available, and a little bit of cilantro. So if I'm gonna plate this for myself right now, which I am, I'm gonna take a little bit of avocado, kind of put those like that. Okay, then I can dive into my sour cream, my lime crema, put a little bit in there, maybe off the side a little bit. Then I want to just take a little bit of fresh cilantro. You know, we had the coriander in there in the base. Just sprinkle a little bit of that on there. And we're good. That's your arroz con pollo. But wait, there's more. Remember, we made these fried plantains here that have been kind of resting, and they're ready to go. So you might as well just put it all on one plate. Less dishes, everything's there. It all really tastes good together. So I'm just going to come in here, add a few. You got the nice little pieces of sea salt on there. Remember, I squeezed a little lime on those too. So you kind of just make a little pile of those right there. Come back in at the last second here. A little bit of cracked pepper on top. Tiny bit of salt. There's a lot going on. You don't want to over season it at this point. I like to rather taste it and then decide which way I want to go from there. But that's it. That's my my variation of arroz con pollo from Miami to San Francisco and back. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a taste though, because I'm here and I got it. Oh, it's delicious. You get the lime, get a little bit of heat, not too much. You got these olive bites right here. I would happily serve this on any given day to any person that came over to my house. I might as well try one of these plantains too. Crispy on the outer edges, soft in the middle, that little bit of sea salt and lime. Oh, it's just delicious. I hope you give it a try. I'm gonna go ahead and set that down right there. Be right back. I'm gonna plate up that Piña Colada Cobbler that we made as well. All right, welcome back. We've got our arroz con pollo and fried plantains plated. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you this Piña Colada Cobbler that we threw in the oven a while ago. Couldn't be happier with the way it looked. Nice and brown crust, as I mentioned earlier, kind of rose up and above the pineapple, but still you can see some pineapple and coconut woven through there. Some of the coconut even got a little toasty in there. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of make a little slice. And as I scoop it, you'll see there's pineapple, coconut, crust, everything just all together in there, just perfectly mixed, cooked. It's crispy on the bottom, which is exactly the way it should be. Put that in my bowl. No good cobbler is any good without what? Ice cream. So today I've actually got a frozen yogurt. It's just a vanilla frozen yogurt. You can use vanilla bean ice cream, gelato, any type of flavor you want. You could even stray away from vanilla if you want, but I prefer to kind of let the cobbler speak for itself. I throw a little bit of vanilla in there though, like that. And then earlier while this was going, I took some of that extra coconut and just toasted it off real quick in a pan on the stove. So you've just got a nice little toasted coconut as well to go on top. And I just sprinkle a little bit of that over the top of our frozen yogurt and our dessert. And that's it. That's a Piña Colada Cobbler with ice cream and toasted coconut. I want to take this time to thank you for joining me today at the Signature Dish. I had a great time sharing all these recipes with you. They're recipes from my heart, they're recipes from my life. I hope that you're inspired to go out and not only try these, but try your own variations of them once you get going. The thing about cooking is to just have fun. Have fun, do what you love, please yourself, please others with the food that you can create. It's just a great way to sit around and build community. So thanks again for joining me. You can check out these recipes at stevecookstuff.com as well as many others, and hope to see you soon. I gotta have a bite now.